Let's begin by creating a database class. We'll select class from this drop-down. Done. Now let's add the keyword abstract and make this an abstract class. Now, what is an abstract class? Before we answer this question, let's understand the concept of abstraction. Abstraction is a process of hiding the implementation details and showing only the functionality to the user. So basically, the abstract methods of an abstract class will not have any default implementation. Now let's understand what we mean by an abstract method. An abstract method is a method which uses the keyword abstract in its declaration. So, an abstract class can have both abstract and non-abstract methods. The abstract methods will never have a default implementation, while the non-abstract methods will always have a default implementation. An abstract class is pretty similar to an interface. Let's look at some differences between the two. An interface is declared using the keyword interface, while an abstract class is declared by using the keyword abstract. The non-abstract methods of an interface may or may not have a default implementation, while the non-abstract methods of an abstract class will always have a default implementation. One similarity between the two is that objects cannot be created for either of them. That is, they cannot be instantiated. Now let's understand the need for an abstract class with the help of an example. Let's say we have a parent class called animal, which has a method called sounds. Also, let's say this parent class has subclasses like lion, horse, dog, cat, etc. Now, even if this method sounds has a default implementation in the parent class, the subclasses will have to override this method to add specific sounds of animals to this method. So the lion class will change the implementation to add the sound roar. The dog class will give the sound woof to this method. Now, when we know that all the subclasses will need to override the method sounds of the parent class, then why do we need to give this method a default implementation at all? In such a case, we can make this method abstract and thus force all the subclasses to write their own implementation of this method. Also, this method sounds will now have the keyword abstract. At the same time, this class animal can also have a method called legs, which can have a default implementation, for example, which says that the animal has 4 legs. This will work because most animals do have 4 legs, and so the subclasses can just use the default implementation of the method. Thus, the class animal can be an abstract class and can accommodate both methods with and without default implementation. This is the use of an abstract class. So we know what an abstract class is. Now, for this class also, we will make an abstract class as we have done here, and we also will add some abstract methods to this class. But first, let's make this class of the type room database like this. Now we will tell the compiler that this class, which is of room database type, would be used as our DB class for this application. For this, we will use annotation here. Now along with the annotation, we will mention the tables or entities that we need inside this class. So here if you see, we have mentioned the keyword entities, then the name of the entity class, which is book entity, double colon, and the keyword class to tell that it is a class. Finally, we will give the version here. This is the version of the database. It's important to mention the version since sometimes we may want to update our app or its code at a later stage. So, we may want to change the structure of the current table or add new tables. In that case, we will have to update the version of the database so that the app does not crash when the user updates the app to a newer version. The version number is always a natural number, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Next, we need to tell here that all the functions that we will perform on the data will be performed by the DAO interface. To do that, we will create an abstract function here called bookDAO. The return type will be bookDAO so that it returns a DAO value and will in turn allow us to use all the functionalities of a DAO. Think of it this way. Whenever we have a string type variable, we are able to use all the functions of strings on it, such as length, index of, etc. Similarly, this function has the type database by parent and also the return type is DAO. Thus, we will be able to use all the functions of DAO on the value that it will return. This function serves as a doorway for all DAO operations. Since it is an abstract class, there will be no default implementation. So, that was all that we needed to do in this class as of now. We have set up all that we needed for the database to function. Click Next whenever you are ready.